Oh boy. Another day, another dollar, I guess. Woo! Ooh, this was a stinky one. Oh, hello, and welcome to Underrated Entertainment, where I look at various bits of media that I feel never got enough appreciation. In this episode, in honor of its 5th anniversary this year, I will be looking at the 2016 Ghostbusters remake. Where do I even start with this movie? It's amazing how, of all the remakes and reboots that have been made in the past decade, this was the one on the internet that for some reason caused everyone to lose their goddamn minds and act as if a crime against humanity had been committed, creating so much negative press where, despite actually getting good reviews from critics overall, note, this was before sites like Rotten Tomatoes relied way too much on internet reviewers for their rankings, tanked hard, causing the studio behind it to lose approximately $70 million and cancel an entire planned trilogy. Honestly, I always felt like this film got a bad rap, especially when you consider what else came out in 2016. As such, I've decided to do something that you won't see much of on the internet, an actual fair assessment of the film, addressing what worked in it and what didn't. Okay then. Let's talk about some of the actual flaws this film had. First of all, this film was horribly marketed by Sony Pictures, who kept trying to present it as a continuation of the original Ghostbusters series, even though it was obviously a remake. When the inevitable backlash happened when it was obvious that this film had no connection to the original series, Sony did make the mistake of painting all those criticizing the film as just vile sexists. Because while that certainly was a major factor behind the backlash to this film, it's just as important to remember that many were motivated simply by good old-fashioned gatekeeping. In addition, the film is too long, primarily due to the overuse of linorama comedy.
If I had a human baby that could fly, I wouldn't be telling the press about it. If I had a flying baby, I'd zip this, and so would you.
I think it might be a ghost. Oh, no, it's not. It's just a bird. Bye. There's the door. Later days. Can you hear this? Let me turn it up.
Oh, my God. This is incredibly immature behavior.
Caught it.
Yeah, like Patrick Swayze. That's it. And then we were all dancing at a summer camp in the Catskills, and then we sat down, and he was behind me, and we made a vase.
Oh, you're combining the two.
I combined a couple of Swayze.
Oh, you know what was a good one? Roadhouse.
I loved Roadhouse.
Point Break.
He was a Point Break.
Come on, at the end with the big wave.
There's a ghost in that, too. Well,
Which is frustrating, because better editing could have easily made a lot of these comedic scenes actually work. For example, if we took this moment...
We don't want mass hysteria either. Our main concern is that we're allowed to continue our work.
yes, that is very important.
Very important.
But my concern is, I feel like the cat is sort of already kind of out of the bag.
I think what they're saying is the cat is out of the bag. They want us to put the cat back inside the bag.
No, I know that's what they're saying, but I'm saying the cat's already out, so it's hard to put the cat back
It's
in the...
impossible.
But that's why they have that saying, because if
It's
the
a
cat is out of the bag, you
nonsense
can't put
saying.
it back in the
I
bag.
put a cat in a bag all the time.
But once the cat is out of the bag, aren't you like, oh, the cat is out of the bag?
We just want to shove that damn cat back in the bag.
and trimmed it down like so.
We don't want mass hysteria either. Our main concern is that we're allowed to continue our work.
Yes, that is very important.
Very important.
But my concern is, I feel like the cat is sort of already kind of out of the bag.
Just want to shove that damn cat back in the bag.
It's easily a lot funnier. The cameos from cast members from the original film are also very hit and miss, as the ones who are actual characters, and therefore have a point, are really underutilized, and the ones who are there just as cameos are very distracting and just feel pandering.
I don't go to Chinatown. I don't drive Wacos, and I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
Look, Dan, I know the Ghostbusters franchise is your baby, but couldn't you have found a better way to justify your appearance in this film? There also was no real in-universe reason given for why the film had to take place in New York, as its plot could have taken place in any major city. Whereas the original film had a very New Yorker vibe to it that just wouldn't have worked in any other urban setting. It's also a shame that we're only teased the new Ghostbusters operating as a business during the ending of the film. Ugh. Which had a lot to do with Sony insisting that this movie be strictly an origin story. Finally, the villain of the film is rather lackluster, not because of the conceit of him, because the idea of a villain who's in essence of a misanthropic internet troll actually had the means to destroy the world using Ghostbusters style tech is actually a pretty good one. But rather in who was cast in the role. An actor who director Paul Feig had worked with before on his web series Outer Space. Instead of giving the sort of over-the-top, larger-than-life performance that was needed in order to make this character work, the guy playing the role is way too reserved, and just comes off as a smug jerk who is being villainous just for the sake of it. Honestly, this is a role that should have been played by someone like Bill Hader or Patton Oswalt. Someone who could really sink their teeth into the megalomaniacal, "Oh, I am so brilliant, but the world refuses to acknowledge it, so I will destroy it" sort of role. Okay, now that we've gone over the film's actual flaws, let's focus on something not many did. What actually works in the film. First of all, the core cast of the film is really solid. Kristen Wiig does a good job at playing the straight-laced character Erin, who tries to be taken seriously in her research into the paranormal, and does provide some genuine laughs in the moments where her character does become unglued by the stress of the situation she's put in. While I'm not the biggest fan of Melissa McCarthy's comedic roles, I will say that she's actually tolerable as the character Abby, as she at least played the role as an actual person and not just a one-note caricatured bitch like so many of her other comedic roles. Leslie Jones, for her part, is really good as Patty, as she isn't just a one-note loud and abrasive woman like she frequently played on SNL, but is a more insightful character in that, rather than just being a cliched token, easily frightened black character with street smarts, she is someone who has a more grounded reaction to supernatural events occurring.
Okay, yep. Room full of nightmares. Not going in there. Was that there before? Please do not answer. Kick off.
Come on, Patty, Patty!
And I don't want to piss off the ghost.
And is, interestingly enough, a history buff.
This building is built in the same place as the first Chinese gambling den in New York. Did you know that? You know, up above us was the old New York prison. It's the first place in New York that they electrocuted people. I'm telling you, it used to take so long that they'd just be like, shoot them. We're using too much electricity. That's why I knew something weird was going on down here, man. Mikado has one of the weirdest histories of the buildings in New York.
Okay, so it's your standard issue haunted building.
No, this is even before it was a building. All sorts of massacres happened at that spot.
Which I felt was a smart move because it made her a real asset to the team. Because understanding the history of haunted locations is a very important part of paranormal investigations. The real standout of the cast, however, is Kate McKinnon as Holtzman. I fucking love this character. Not only is she delightfully insane as a sort of mad scientist equivalent to Egon in the original film, my favorite OG Ghostbuster, but she also pulls off both being zany comedic relief and an utter badass during the actual ghostbusting scenes.
You just got Holtzman, baby!
Among the main highlights of this film are the ghosts and the ghostbusting. In the case of the former, there is not only the colorful variety in the types of ghosts seen in the film, ranging from very human-looking ghosts to ghost parade balloons to that disgusting blob Slimer, but you can tell that there was effort put into a lot of the effects, with a lot of the ghosts clearly being actual actors in makeup and costumes that were just digitally touched up to look more ethereal, as opposed to having the ghosts just be pure CGI in how they were created, and rather uniform in how they looked. These ghosts also, appropriately enough, have a very cartoonish look to them, which, despite what some angry ranters would have you think when the trailer to this film first dropped, was always a hallmark of Ghostbusters. The ghost busting we see in the film also stands out in just how creatively it's portrayed. While it's pretty standard stuff at first, during the climax, we see some impressive new bits of anti-ghost tech and ghost-busting tactics, such as the use of anti-ghost grenades, anti-ghost shotguns, ghost shredders, devices that enable someone to punch a ghost, and the use of proton streams as basically anti-ghost whips and slingshots. You also see that this team of Ghostbusters actually test their equipment before going out into the field. Something that surprisingly not even the original team did.
You know, it's just occurred to me we really haven't had a completely successful test of this equipment.
I blame myself.
Why worry? Each of us is wearing an unlicensed nuclear accelerator on his back.
Another good aspect of this film that just doesn't get enough love is its score. For one thing, it appropriately has a very superhero movie vibe to it, considering that the Ghostbusters have always kind of been superheroes, given how they tend to battle serious supernatural threats to save the world. Also, it has some nice flourishes from the Ghostbusters song in it. Another major strength of this film is how it actually tried to have its own story and characters. While there have been a lot of remakes that just tell the same exact story with the same exact characters as in the original source material, this film, to its credit, has a fairly unique story and actually tried to make its characters distinct from their counterparts in the original film. For one thing, we see more of a progression of how the leads in the film became Ghostbusters. Instead of taking the step of immediately trying to make a business out of catching ghosts after their first paranormal encounter, they act like actual scientists in that they're initially interested in testing whether or not it's feasible to catch a ghost in order to study it, and it's later on that they become interested in freelance work. And while, again, he wasn't executed very well, the villain was nevertheless unique to the films, being in essence an evil counterpoint to the Ghostbusters. The film also has a less problematic depiction of the government, in that rather than having it be represented by a strawman asshole skeptic, there is instead the more reasonable depiction of government representatives who do believe that the Ghostbusters are legitimate, but are understandably concerned about causing a public panic over officially acknowledging the existence of the paranormal.
Please don't be like the mayor in Jaws.
Never compare me to the Jaws mayor. Never!
Not to mention that by the end of the film, they actually get official recognition and compensation for saving the damn world, something that you didn't see at the beginning of Ghostbusters 2. Finally, the film also has a nice arc between the characters Aaron and Abby, in which their strained friendship does end up healing as they continue their ghost-busting endeavors, leading to a genuinely sweet moment where Aaron risks her life to save Abby. All the reasons why I love this movie, none are greater than what is perhaps the best scene in the entire movie, when the Ghostbusters fight a literal army of ghosts in Times Square. For one thing, there's a nice visual variety to the ghosts in the scene, ranging from more humanoid ghosts from different time periods to ones that are more otherworldly. Also, the score is arguably at its best in this scene, as the superhero movie vibe it invokes in the rest of the film is set on overdrive, matching the level of action we see unfolding. Said action is also nice and varied, with the Ghostbusters using their wide variety of gadgets to the fullest extent. And since this movie is in its own continuity, it's okay that the rules of Ghostbusting are a little different here. Finally, the climax of this scene is the epitome of a mic drop moment. But since YouTube won't let me show you this whole moment unaltered, I have to show it to you like this. My own awkward cringe just now aside, I don't exaggerate when I say that this particular battle scene alone made the film worth seeing in the theater. Particularly in 3D, as the film utilized it surprisingly well. And it still impresses me every time I watch the film. Well, there you have it. An actual fair summation of the 2016 Ghostbusters. And you know what? I still love it. Yes, it definitely could have been better if there had been a more disciplined creative head behind it, and probably would have fared better if Sony hadn't botched its advertising. But at the same time, you can tell that, with a few exceptions, this was made by people who were trying their best to make something unique and live up to the Ghostbusters name. Instead of shallowly just showing us the same story we've seen before, or shamelessly ripping off unrelated popular franchises just to entice people to come see it. If this film had been given a fair chance, it might have been the beginning of something very special, instead of the wasted opportunity it ended up being. Whether you like it or not, this is a remake that actually tried. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and ring the bell. Also, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, and Twitter. And if you have any extra money that you don't know what to do with, there is my Patreon and my coffee. By the way, special thanks to Patreon supporter L'Oreal McNabb. Have a nice day. Oh boy. Looks like I gotta take care of something. See you later.